You could spend $50,000 in a blink of an eye remodeling a kitchen. I mean, these days everything's so expensive, right?
Yeah.
Now, you just remodeled it. Are you really definitely going to get 50,000 more for the home? Not necessarily. You can do all the marketing in the world. You can have the home looking just gorgeous. You could be the only home on the market in that zip code. And if you're overpriced, you're not selling. Plain and simple. Because what happens then is all these buyers think it's a smoking good deal, and then it ends up getting bid up. Because the bottom line is you can never really underprice a property because the market's always going to determine what the value is. My goal is to net you the most money possible. They're not going to not buy your home because there's wood chips in the front. What'll cause them to not want to buy it is if it just looks like a mess out front. Plain and simple.
All right, Greg, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Really appreciate it.
So I wanted to start, I know we had a lot of great conversations before. I wanted to start with kind of your specific process that's very special, tailored towards you, the audience that you guys serve in a very completely different way than a lot of realtors.
Yeah, of course. So, we started to see this need to help cosmetically improve properties to bring them to the market in order to fetch the highest and best price for the property. And what we kept running into were, homeowners. A prime example is, a lot of times we get called to sell properties that were rentals, and they're very worn down. They're ready for a renovation, but the owner doesn't want to renovate it. And honestly, it's typically not going to benefit them. They're not going to make a lot of money if they go and renovate the entire home just to put it on the market, right? So what we found is this niche of home seller that could benefit from this, but they would tell us over and over again, I'm not spending a dime on my property. I'm selling as is. And okay, fine. We'll sell it as is. But if you did put money into it, you could get X amount more and it would appeal to more buyers and et cetera. And so what we came up with was a concierge program where not only, will we do the product, but we'll actually put the money up front. We're going to use our money to improve their property. And of course, it is reimbursed on the back end. We're not just giving our money for no reason. And so, this appealed to a lot more people like, wait, I don't have to spend a penny. And I say, not only do you not have to spend a dime up front, we're going to handle the whole thing for you. You hand over the key. I've got a team that's going to come in and they're going to knock everything out. And the other thing is my guys have been working with them for 17 years now. And they're fast. And often the homeowner can't believe how quickly we can improve the property.
Let's do a quick example. So like pretend I have a house. Then I'm like, hey, Greg, I need help. Like I don't want to do this renovation.
Sure.
I do want it to sell it ASAP. What's kind of the process going through that?
Yeah, and it's not, rocket science here. We're going to come in and, the general rule of thumb for anything in real estate is, you want to have it freshly painted. You want your floors in good condition and you want curb appeal. Those are the three baseline no matter what. But I'm telling you, there are homeowners that don't want to do a thing. And that turns off so many buyers. So we'll come in and not only are my guys that I work with quick, but they're insanely inexpensive. And often the bids we get, the seller doesn't even believe it, that we're going to paint the house. We're going to, maybe lay down new flooring. If there's hardwoods, maybe we'll completely buff them out and make them new. Our typical process is we look at the property the way it is and we come up with an estimated value of it as is. And then we say, okay, well, if we did these 3 things or these 5 things or whatever the list is, what's the value then? And what we do is we determine what the exit value may be. And then our goal is to spend 1% or less of that. Now, by all means, if a homeowner wants to spend more money, by all means, we'll do it. But we want to try to do as much as we can with that 1%. And typically it falls right around that. There's a few instances where maybe some flooring really needed to be done, and that starts to push the budget up a bit.
1% of the potential exit price?
That's correct. That's correct. So let me give you an example of a home that we recently did this with. We had come in, it was black and white that this home was going to sell for right around $1 million as is. I mean, there was a model match property in similar condition, 1 million bucks. I mean, it was just black and white, right? And so we came in and we determined if we did a few things, this list of things that we could sell for about 1.2 million. Okay. So we said, hey, let's see what we can do for $12,000, right? 1%. And we got in there, and there was a lot more deferred maintenance that we found in the property. And ultimately, we ended up deciding collectively, this wasn't just me saying it. I was ready to stick to the budget, but my handyman said, you know what? I could put luxury vinyl plank flooring down in here for X amount. And it was going to push us a little over that 1%. I think we ended up at like $14,000 all in. And that includes staging too. We staged the property as well. So we took this property and did all the the basic things that we talked about doing. We had to put some money into landscaping. It was pretty rough outside, but you wanted that curb appeal as you walk up, right? That home ended up in this. Just mind you, this is also in a little bit better of a market than we're in now. But that market, that home ended up fetching 12 offers, and we ended up at $1,265,000 as his final sales
Wow. What's the time frame from the time you put out a market?
Yeah, the time frame from when my guys got in there and finished, we on that one, and I'm talking everything. I'm talking it all the work done, staged, photos and everything done, 2 weeks.
Wow. How long did it take for you to get out the market to like receiving the offers?
We had it on the market on a Wednesday. We had just jam-packed open houses because our typical rule of thumb, I mean, this is kind of common practice in busier markets, is you come on the market midweek, you do a bunch of lead up to an open house weekend, you get everybody through there, and then we say, hey, we're not reviewing offers until like Monday at 5. So we get time for everybody to get through it. So we basically, from a Wednesday and then, Monday we had offers in, and Tuesday or Wednesday we're under contract.
Wow, that's amazing. So like the whole thing is like what, roughly like about 3 weeks, a month or so from the time that you guys started?
Yeah, well, from the time that we started till the time that we were closed was about 6 weeks total. 2 weeks lead time of prep, getting the home ready, getting all of our collateral done, videos shot, photos done, being on the market, and then a 30-day escrow. So we'll call it, 6.5, 7 weeks or so.
That's amazing.
Yep.
How do you looking at different things when it comes onto things you need to do? Like, do you have general rule of thumbs, like when you walk in, these are like the 5 or 10 different things I'm looking at, and then versus like the priorities of, is it going to be different in different markets or different in different houses when you're looking at, because I'm sure there's like millions of things inside of one particular house, right?
Sure. Yep. The general rule of thumb again is like, you got to get a fresh coat of paint, and it's the least expensive thing that you can do to make the property look improved and fresh and ready for the next buyer. So paint's like and especially, sometimes you go in these homes and there's like 5 different color schemes going on, and it's just we want to make it neutral. We want to appeal to as many buyers as possible. And it's funny, sometimes you get a home seller that's like, oh, but I painted that wall this whatever purple that she loved, and hey, you know what? It's a great color. It is. It really is. But it doesn't appeal to all the buyers. So what we want is, I mean, it's very basic. It's an alabaster typically throughout, just giving it a fresh, clean feel. The next thing we're going to evaluate is flooring, because, everyone's eyes go right to that. And so absolute baseline, just like the paint, if there's carpet in the house that's anywhere remotely old, that is getting replaced. That is a no-brainer. People are already weirded out by carpet alone, that you've got to get new carpet in there. And, doing a steam clean thing, if it's really like, maybe only 6 months to a year old, that can work. But, I'll just share a story with you on one of my rental properties. This is not even a property I was selling. I had a turnover in a tenant that I had new carpet in the unit, and the turnover was only 6 months. They lived there for 6 months. And okay. I didn't want to replace the carpet because it wasn't that old. And my property manager is showing it, and people really were turned off by the fact that the carpet wasn't new. They're like, oh, but I'm like, it's only been 6 months. Come on.
Right.
But
right.
The reason why I make that point is that people get a really weird mindset about carpet just in general, but especially if it's used.
So you did mention two things though, like vinyl and the carpet. Do you see like the difference between either one, or you prefer one versus the other?
It really depends on what's there because the luxury vinyl stuff, while it looks nice, it's not the best thing in the world, and it typically price per square foot, it's a little more expensive than your basic carpet. It that is going to be a case by case scenario typically.
Of course.
Um, Bedrooms, typically carpet, right? We just throw carpet down. But if I've got, a nice living area and we can do the luxury vinyl, to make it like I had a condo just recently we did this with where, they had carpet through the whole thing, this Berber carpet, and they had it on with another agent trying to sell it. It never sold. And he came in and said, "What do I do? I think we're priced right, whatever." And I said, "Well, here's what I would do. I'd just give it a new feel, make it feel like it's a beach property. It's in Pacific Beach." I said, "Let's make it feel, like a beach property." And so we went in there and did like a really cool sort of sandalwood type, flooring. It gave it a very beach feel. It made it feel like a completely new condo, it really is case by case. But again, that's kind of the no-brainer right there with the paint. It's like paint flooring for sure.
Gotcha. Anything else afterwards?
We're going to go through as well is we're going to just see if there's anything blaringly obvious that needs to be repaired, because the buyers, whether they, would think this consciously or more likely subconsciously, if they see something broken and it's not, maybe it may not even be that big of a deal. It could be a handle hanging off something weird, or just something that's broken, a broken piece of a window blind or a window shade or just something like that. They automatically, whether they realize it or not, are thinking to themselves, "Wonder what else is wrong with this property." And we don't want them thinking that. We don't want them thinking that.
Gotcha. Because I live in like Mira Mesa, right? Like, and like I'm familiar probably like all the way up to North County down to Chula Vista. That's kind of my area, and I found like a lot of homes around my area probably goes for 900 to 1.5 roughly, and so 1% of that is what 10,000 to like 15,000 roughly. That's kind of the realm, unless beach house, that's obviously a little bit higher. So if I take the 1%, it would be like 10 to 15,000. We can probably jam in like you said, flooring, painting, and then the touch ups or fix ups to anything that you can see. Is there any other things that you would, besides the obvious three, that you would look at to recommend if the buyer, or sorry, if the seller is, I wanted to sell it higher, or I want to sell it faster, or I wanted to do a bigger renovation than that? Is there another list that you get into after the essential three that you can look at out, like, okay, we can take a look at this area or that thing?
Well, there's actually a fourth essential in that, and it's arguably also, I could argue all day long that all four of those are equally as important. And the fourth one is curb appeal, because like a buyer sometimes decides if they're even going to buy your home while they're walking up. And if it looks bad, if the shrubs are dead, if it's just, if there's not a nice welcome mat or some sort of doormat or the door needs, isn't freshly painted or anything like that, it's automatically they're turned off. So
do you mean more specifically like in the front, if it has driveways or landscape, or like the backyard as well?
No, I'm strictly talking curb appeal. Now, backyard,
just the front.
Yeah. When they pull up and they're coming up to the home, I do not want them already questioning it or being turned off because it does not look appealing from the outside. So we need to cover that base as well.
Gotcha. So that's like the four essentials. That's equally important.
Correct. And again, with curb appeal, we're going to do whatever little things we can do on a budget. So, if the landscaping's all out of whack, I mean, we might, if we're really on a tight budget, we might pull all the, dead stuff out, but just throw down some, wood chips or something simple. And again, I've had sellers tell me, "Oh, I hate the look of wood chips." And I don't like them either. I don't personally like them. But you know what? It's going to make your home look better. It's going to make it look more appealing. Now, if you want to put rock in, yeah, we can do that all day long. If you want to put some fancy stones in, sure. But my goal is to net you the most money possible. And what I know is that they're not going to not buy your home because there's wood chips in the front. They're not that what'll cause them to not want to buy it is if it just looks like a mess out front. Plain and simple.
Gotcha. So I do have a friend of mine. They're like, their house is super beat up. They want to do like everything, bathroom, kitchen, floor, windows, like all that kind of jazz, right? And so they're asking kind of the questions of, okay, like I have a house that's super beat up. I wanted to put some money in. I don't know what that amount is, to sell it at the most possible. Like what is your process determining like that amount is and what areas to do to be able to like spend this and then to actually get a better ROI, almost like a flip. But then obviously we're not flipping in the sense of we're trying to do this to actually make the sell better, easier, faster.
Yeah. So, with a kitchen or a bathroom, it's not super common for you to go and remodel it for the average Joe, I should say. A contractor who can get the property, off market at a good deal that, can do the work, on a far less budget than, your average Joe. That's the person that's going to flip it. For the average homeowner, let's just use an example. I mean, you could spend $50,000 in a blink of an eye remodeling a kitchen. I mean, that's all. That's like these days, everything's so expensive, right?
Yeah.
Now you just remodeled it. Are you really definitely going to get 50,000 more for the home? Not necessarily. And there's not a one size fits all answer to this. I mean, it's a very subjective thing to the property, right? I mean, I can't sit here and go, oh, you're absolutely going to lose money on that, because that's not fair to say. But generally speaking, especially with the properties I deal with, which are usually sub 2 million. I've got one right now that we're working on. It's a bigger one that I've done that I've ever done. It's over on the ocean front in Point Loma. Yeah, it's a 5,000 square foot home. So that one, but even still, I mean, that's going to be an exit value of around 5 million. And we're well below 50,000, and we're painting everything. We're doing all exterior paint, all interior. We're doing, just odds and ends that were all deferred right around the house. And we're staying, it's a lot of staging because it's such a big home. But anyway, back to your question about your friend. Here's the other thing, in my opinion, I would need to know the condition of the stuff he's talking about remodeling, because you can make, really cheap, inexpensive old cabinets look great with paint and new hardware. And so if he wants to net the most, let's just say the home is worth 1.1, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now you're going to put, $11,000 into it, and you can do those things. If you put $50,000 into the kitchen and you put $25,000 into each bathroom, are you going to be able to sell it for not just what you put into it, but even more? Because you don't want to do all that work and not get a return on that money and the time, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's why doing these, very baseline things, in my opinion, often makes more sense for the home seller, because at the end of the day, they're going to end up netting more than having to do all that work and remodel and everything else that goes with it.
Gotcha.
Now, here's one other way you could look at it too, is you might go in and put in a certain type of quartz countertop or a certain type of cabinet, and you spent a lot of money doing all this work, and you're like, man, this looks awesome. That doesn't mean that everybody else is going to think it looks awesome. And sometimes buyers, I built my career. I've been in real estate in San Diego for about 21 years. Built my career working with buyers. I know what buyers look at and what they think. And buyers have a hard time paying a premium for something that's brand new if they don't really like it. So, you might choose these things and it might look great to a lot of people, but sometimes a buyer might walk in and go, yeah, but I don't really want to pay that price. I wish I could have just, had the opportunity to do it myself. Right. And then they, where they could pick out their own style, their own type of countertops and cabinets and whatnot. But I can't emphasize this enough that this is not a one size fits all scenario. Everybody's got a different scenario. Everybody has, whether it's the price point or whatever. What I'm talking about works for the clients that I work with. And like, as an example, the home that I just mentioned over in Point Loma, I mean, these owners wanted to like gut everything, and I laid it all out for them. Like, this is how much you're going to end up spending to do this, and you're not going to do any better on the market. You're just not. It's not going to mean that you're going to sell for more on top of what you're putting into it.
Like from buyer's perspective, I know we talked about a lot of like on the selling side. On the buyer's perspective, what would you say are more important nowadays when they're looking at different houses to buy? Would you say, I'm sure there's a lot of people talking about locations or status of the house, the value, and of course, before, like from your experience, like right now around San Diego areas, do you see a lot of people are still buying, or do you see a lot of kind of waiting to be seen, or how does the market for seeing San Diego right now for you?
That's always the most popular question. How's the market? And that's so subjective to uh, who are you? Are you a buyer? Are you a seller? Are you looking in this zip code, that zip code? Are you looking in this particular pocket of that zip code versus that one? Are you looking on that particular side of the street versus this one? There's so much that goes into whether that's a good market or a bad market. What on the broad aspect in San Diego County, we're still relatively low on inventory, comparatively speaking. I want to say we're sitting in the neighborhood of like 3,500 active and pending, or I'm sorry, active homes on the market that are listed for sale, right? To put that in perspective, because there, you'll get people that are like, oh, the market's going to crash, it's going to come down and all this. And the bottom line is we need far more inventory for it to crash because, I worked through the downturn in 08, 09, 10, like those years were crazy bad. And to put it in perspective back then, at any given time, depending on, when you're talking about, we had anywhere between 14 and 18,000 homes and condos on the market.
Whoa.
So we need a lot more inventory and less demand in order to get to a tipping point where you're going to see a substantial price decrease. Now, what I have seen overall is if somebody bought in like 2021, that was like the frenzied market was, coming out of COVID. We saw during that time, it was nuts, man. We saw these people that could work remote coming from Bay Area and LA, and San Diego's a discount compared to those areas. And so they were coming down like, wait, this house is only this much? Yeah. And so a lot of that drove up the pricing in general. And there were buyers that, that paid a premium often in 2021, we'll call it around that time frame. So if you bought then and you have to sell right now, there's a chance you might be taking a loss, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or here's another comparison. I used to do more stuff in downtown San Diego. I don't as much anymore. My business partner handles a lot of that. But I have a client looking at buying a place for his daughter, like a little one bedroom. There are 135 one bedroom condos available in downtown for sale right now. There's only 11 under contract. In the last 30 days, only 13 have sold. So that's like a 10-month supply of inventory, meaning that if no other properties came on the market, it would take us 10 months to sell all that inventory off. So that is an example of like what I just said earlier is it really depends on where you're at and what you're looking for, or if you're a buyer or a seller. Because in that area right now, it's kind of painful if you're a seller and there's price cuts happening regularly. And for example, the property that they want to buy, this guy bought it in, I think it was 21 or 22, and he's going to end up, having to take a loss on it if he's going to sell. Nothing like crazy bad, but he's probably going to be, a net 5% less than what he would, what he bought it for.
Gotcha. On the side of doing the work itself, you've mentioned you'll upfront the money and then ask for reimbursement later, and then your team will take care of all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
How would you say kind of the ways that you're finding out the people that are on your team? And so where I'm coming from is a lot of homeowners are looking for realtors, looking for contractors, right? There's a lot of people out there that they can choose from. And that process is very brutally if you don't have any experience in that and find the wrong people and coming in and like destroyed everything. But what I found very interestingly is it's very similar on how you find your team as well. Like you had your handyman or subcontractor, contractor, etc. That will be on your team. What would be your thought process going through picking out them? Like you try them on, or do you, see what they're doing and to vet them out to be like, okay, you're a part of my team. We're gonna do this thing together. And so maybe that'll help clients or homeowners that they want to sell better understanding, okay, how do you pick the right realtor, how do you pick the right contractor?
Sure. Great question. So I basically have one main guy that, whether he does it personally or he outsources it, he's my go-to guy. And the only way that I found him was I had a good friend listing his home for sale. And again, I mean, I've been working with this particular guy for about 16, 17 years. And the way I met him was my friend that wanted to sell his home, I said, well, you really need to paint the inside at minimum. And I said, I said, I got a painter. And he goes, yeah, he goes, I guarantee your painter won't match my painter's price. And I said, no, I got the cheapest one. He goes, no, I got the cheapest one. And he goes, and this is I'm gonna say the wrong numbers here. I mean, I remember the house was 3,500 square feet, something like that. And I'm probably gonna quote not the right exact numbers, but he had like a bid from this guy for like 2,500 to paint the entire house or something, And I said, wait, really? I mean, my painter was like $1,000 more than that, And I thought my guy was cheap.
Yeah.
I'm like, this guy must do shitty work. He's like, no, incredible work. I'm like, nah, I completely had all my doubts. And then I go back to the house and it's all painted. I'm like, oh, wow, who is this guy? So I connected with him, and man, we have done, we were talking about it today. We can't even keep track of how many of these we've done now, how many of these properties we've come into and done this. So it's been 16 years, and his name Jose, he's like family to me now. And literally anything that I need for the home, he's got somebody that'll do it. If we need something electrical done. Plumber, done. The only thing that I do outside of that is he doesn't do landscaping or have a landscaper, but I've got my landscaper that gets over there and gets whatever done when we need landscaping. Now that being said, I did a really fun little project when it comes to vendors. At this point in my career, between myself and my team, we're sitting on a pretty big database of past clients and that we know. And so we wanted to put together a really cool, what Flip Snack is?
No.
So Flip Snack's like almost like an online book. Like you click a link and then you can flip pages of different stuff. So we made and we have a physical copy too, but we made a digital version of a vendor book. And every vendor in there, what we did is we emailed our whole database and we said, hey, we want to put this together, but we want your input. Who do you know? Who have you worked with that you just thought is so awesome that you would refer them out? So this is a vendor book made by everybody that we know. And it's multiple pages, and there's almost anything you can think of, from attorneys to CPAs to plumbers to electricians, is in there. And so once a quarter we update it, because we'll get somebody say, hey, I just worked with this, handyman that was awesome. Can you add him to the list? So we'll update it, and then every quarter it's a touch point that we give to our database. Like, hey, just wanted to let you know we updated it. Here's the new vendor list. And so if I do need, if there's something, comes up that Jose doesn't want to do or can't do, I've got some just incredible plumber that I work with, incredible electrician. Sometimes you get these electricians that they want to get paid just to come out and do a bid. And this guy is like, no, man, I'll come out. You just tell me what you need me to do, and he'll come out and examine and bid stuff in the hopes that, it's going to bring him more business down the road. And it does. Cause I'm always like, this is the guy, man. You need, I refer him out all the time. But when it comes to, what we're primarily talking about in improving the properties, yeah, my guy Jose is the man. Like he just, and I give him so much work that my stuff gets priority, which is really nice too. Most people cannot believe the price that I tell them and the timeline I give them. They're like, you got to be out of your mind. I'm like, no, this is watch. It'll be done.
How do you for the sellers or the homeowners that don't have the potential connections that you have? Say I'm the homeowner, I want to sell the property. I got like multiple realtors reach out to me, right? How what would be your process of vetting these people out in the sense of like I'm gonna pick one versus the other?
Wait, how should they pick out
The
the
homeowner,
realtor?
yeah, the
Yeah.
seller, huh?
So a homeowner, I would say a couple things. I mean, not to toot my own horn, but if I like I know from experience that we just had this woman gave me two townhomes to list in University City as an example, and she met with three different agents, and the other two agents both said, "Hey, you need to do all these things to the home." I was the only one that came in and said, "You need to do all these things to the home, and I will do them, and I will pay for them, and I will handle everything." And she's like,
Ah,
"You just took that off my plate." So, if it's that situation, I think it's an obvious choice. Uh, but no,
absolutely.
if you're if you're going, if you're just calling three random agents, you don't know any of them. I mean, first and foremost, I mean, a referral is always going to be typically the best source. I mean, see, if Bob and Mary used an agent and they said this guy's great, and they're like, and Patty and John need to sell their home, that's that's going to be a really good source to find somebody to work with. But if they have taken the three agents and they've interviewed them all, I mean, there's a couple things that I would play into. I first and foremost, I'm a big person on just what do you feel in the gut. I mean, you kind of know when
Mm.
somebody, when you click with somebody, when it feels right, when you feel like they got your back. Cause I work with a lot of people that will tell you all sorts of stuff to get your business. And, sometimes it's not always the truth. Unfortunately. And sometimes I have to come in after the fact and tell them the truth. And, after they've already been through the ringer with somebody else. In fact, I built a large chunk of my career on taking over listings that did not sell the first time with the agent. So, I think there's a part of it that is really sort of an intuition, sort of a feeling, a gut feeling on, is this the right person or not? So that would be my number one. But beyond that, you want to rely on some of the data, like what's their track record like? What is their, list to sales price ratio? That's important. Are they getting the price that they told the seller that they can? And at
Can
the
you
end of
get
the
into
day,
that? Like, what do you mean by the list to sell ratio? Is that what you said?
yeah. Yeah. So list to sales price ratio. If you, as an example, if you had you know, uh, like a condo that was $100,000, like you want somebody that's going to be getting close to that number, or, obviously over is better. But yeah, as an example, my career, if you took all my sales of all the homes I've ever listed and sold, I generally at about a 98% list to sales price ratio, meaning that I get 98% of the prices that I set on the home, or that that we list it for. It's always an agreement with them. So
Ah,
so you
gotcha,
want somebody
gotcha.
that's got a track record of getting, a good list to sales price ratio, because that means that they're pricing the property right. They know what they're doing. Days on market, I mean, that's one thing to factor in, but I don't think that's the end of the world, because you could have a listing that is, a very unique property that's not going to sell overnight, even if it is the best deal on the market, just because it's a unique property. But that's one thing to look at as well. But I would also say, what's their knowledge and track record in a specific area? That's important.
What would be like the questions that you would ask them to know to see if they knows what they're talking about? Besides the metrics that you just mentioned, what would be some questions that you can ask the realtors to see if they actually knows what they're talking about, or they just got their license, the yesterday?
I think one of the best ones is just, why should I work with you? And see what they say.
Oh,
Why should I work with you? That's a good one. And then this one that I have rarely, if ever, been asked this, but I would ask this of the agent, and I would say, "Hey, if my home hasn't sold in X amount of time, what's your plan? What are you gonna do? What is our game plan?" And just see what they say.
ah. And I'm sure you're looking for actual practicality in their plans of like they can actually do that, not just like the rah where we're gonna stall and wait for like 2 weeks or a month.
Yeah, I mean, I would want to know what their backup plan is. Just if they even have one. If it if it doesn't sell, you're not getting the traction that that you're anticipating to get.
Gotcha. And when you're going through that process, another very common question that I get asked is, we got say 4 offers or 10 offers, 20 offers, however many offers you get. How do you go from that into like, okay, this is the person that we want to sell the property to. Let's go into escrow. How do you kind of guide the homeowner to going through that kind of process?
Sure. So, uh, in markets when we've been really busy, where you would get at least 5 offers, we tend to go utilize like a spreadsheet that we have, and then we plug in all the dynamics of the offers. Generally speaking, when we're gonna if we get more than 5, our general rule of thumb is to first start off like, what are the 5 best offers? Anybody that's, underneath that 5 best, we typically go and call them and go, hey, look, we're going to end up going quite a bit higher than what your buyer submitted. Do you guys even want to bother being in a counteroffer phase? And a lot of times they say no, because it's getting bid up. And again, this is for a very specific time in the market when things are hot. But if you are in that multiple offer situation, then from there, you start to look at like, who's got the cleanest terms. A lot of the stuff is going to be blanket countered. In other words, we're going to give everybody the same amount of time for their inspection contingencies, and if they have loans and the appraisal and everything else like that. From there, it's a process of seeing how the seller wants to handle it. Sometimes sellers just go, you know what? Hey, we only want to counter the best 2 offers. Or sometimes they say, hey, we want to go and say to everybody, send us your highest and best. I mean, that's how you normally get your best offer possible, right? Um, occasionally a seller has a number that set, and they say, hey, we want to counter everybody at this number. So it's not us just saying, this is what you're going to do. We like to collaborate with our home sellers and come up with a strategy that works best for their scenario. Most of the time, and I don't think it's because they're being greedy. It's because, I mean, they worked hard to earn this, to build this equity on this home, and they don't want to leave money on the table. So often the whole like, hey, we're going to do a highest and best is the best solution, because you're getting the highest and best price for the home. So more often than not, that's where we end up going. Now, if I had a circumstance where I had a property getting bid up by multiple offers, and we ended up with 2 offers that, I mean, they were identical. They were like literally identical. In fact, I'm just remembering this right now. I've never had this happen except for this one time in my career. And the agent representing the buyer, or one of the buyers, said, hey, my buyer wants to give you $5,000 extra to get their offer accepted. And I'm like, wait, what? Huh? And so naturally, I disclosed this to the home seller. I'm like, hey, just so you know, this guy's offering me $5,000. I'll give it to you. Like, that's not mine to keep. You're the one with the home here. I'm already getting paid a commission, right? And he goes, no. I want you to have that if we end up going for it. He's like, I don't know which one to pick. And so we went back. He had me go back to both agents with the buyers. And this is sort of frowned upon. And I'll explain why in just a bit. But he goes, I want them to each write a letter on why they're the best buyer for the house. I don't want to know about them. I just want to know why they are the best buyer for the house. And one of the buyers ended up telling a little bit about their personal side, which we weren't really trying to target that. But they ended up saying that, they had I don't know if it was a son or a relative or something that had, it was either autism or Down syndrome. And the homeowner had a relative in the family that had that, mental disability or whatever. And that literally was the deciding factor in that situation, right? That he leaned towards that just because of that connection, right? Now, what's happened in recent years, which I think is just absolutely ridiculous, but the whole giving letters from the buyer to the seller has become a legal issue, with buyers literally selling homeowners claiming discrimination because they didn't get their offer accepted, and the homeowner knew the buyer was this minority or this or that or the other. I think the reason why I think this is ridiculous, and by the way, I am completely against anything to do with discrimination. I mean, that's just ridiculous. But why I think this is just a ludicrous scenario is because anybody with Google, which is everybody, can Google somebody's name and discriminate all they want. The name's on the freaking contract. You have the ability to, in fact, most homeowners do that. They look up the person that's buying the home. They can discriminate all they want. Why is it all of a sudden that a buyer who gave a letter to the seller to plead their case, to show why they want to be the owner, why is that? It's not illegal. It's just brokers are our brokerages are telling us do not accept these letters unless the seller absolutely says in writing it's okay. It's in the contract now. Will they or will they not accept these letters? That's how it's gotten. Now, here, this is a funny story. I think you'll laugh at this, and you can cut this out if you want or whatever. But so when that came, that was one of my really deal sealers. Often was writing these really good, compelling letters for my buyers, including cute photos of the family and everything. I mean, that was kind of like a go-to, right? And then all of a sudden, Compass, my brokerage is saying we can't do that anymore. I'm like, what? So I found a workaround. I started doing videos.
Oh,
I had a situation where my buyers were one of like 4 or 5 offers, and they just were like, Greg, you got to get us this home. Like, you have to get us this home. And should we do a letter? I'm like, oh, we can't do a letter. Da, da, da. And so I got an idea. And not only did they love my idea, they got their cute little son on video, and he's like, Mommy and Daddy really want to buy your home. We really want to play in the backyard, and we really like it. The selling agent was like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, you guys got the home. Like, the owners are just like, and there was an offer that was a little bit higher than ours. They're like, no, that video sealed the deal.
So. Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing.
I like getting creative.
Okay, so I noticed when you mentioned before, you said best offer. You didn't say the best price. Is there because like the terms that's within that's like making your word sounds a little different to me?
Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, typically it's going to be the highest price, but there are times where it's not, and there might be a scenario where the buyer can give a very quick close because they're cash, and the seller needs to close quick. They need to get out of there, or there could be a situation where the seller needs to sell, but they want to occupy the home after it closes for 6 months or something, or 3 months or whatever. And that might be, more enticing to them if they have a buyer that'll allow that versus a buyer that's giving them more money. So every situation is different. Generally speaking, though, the sellers want the highest price. I mean, who doesn't, right?
Gotcha. Have you heard of like creative finance? This is like a term that's popping out to me like very quick often nowadays. I mean, I don't really understand the logistics of it. But from what I've been told is you can essentially buy a house like zero money down and just be super creative on things like that. Have you heard of that?
I mean, creative financing is sort of can be a catch-all term depending on what exactly you're speaking of. But, creative financing to me, almost as synonymous with like trying to get the seller to carry a little bit of the note if they don't have the funds. So like, for example, they may not have exactly 20%, but they don't want to pay, PMI, private, mortgage insurance, to carry a second. And so they may ask the seller to carry a second for a short amount of time. So that's a very, very broad statement. Like, I had one that, it was a guy that was wanting to buy a property. This was a property we didn't fix out, and it was just a really rundown condo. We knew for a fact, no matter what we did, somebody was going to gut this thing. It was in bad shape. And sure enough, the only people that were really interested were people that wanted to flip it. Well, this guy had his money tied up on something else, but he really wanted it. So he just said, hey, can the seller finance it, and made very, very good terms for the seller to carry the financing for like 6 months. And so that to me is sort of what I think of when you say creative financing.
Gotcha. Do you think it's a valid way, or is it more so of like when you have a problem, you can sort of like play around, or is it more like, okay, I can probably do somewhat creative financing on this property that I want to get, instead of the traditional mortgage or the things like that?
You know, honestly, I don't really haven't really dealt with a lot of properties that have to utilize that. Most of the deals that I do are either cash or they're traditional financing. So I can't speak on that as much as some people might be able to. What I see on the financing side that some people try to take advantage of is getting assumable loans. Like that kind of became popular for a little bit where,
What does that mean? Assumable?
so like for example, like veterans loans are typically assumable, meaning that the next buyer can
Mm-hmm.
just take that loan over. So, there's a lot of people that refinance or they bought with these just insane low mortgage rates in the high twos and low threes. And there are loans out there that are on these properties that a buyer can buy and just take that loan over. So
Mm,
it's an advantage for them because they're getting a better rate than what they're paying, instead of 6%, they're paying, 3% on the mortgage, but it has to be assumable loan. Now the catch is a lot of people that have those loans that low, they don't want to sell because they've got this great rate and they can
right.
just turn it into, if they need to move, they just turn it into a rental property. But sometimes people have to sell regardless.
Mm, gotcha, gotcha. How do you see kind of the process of selling versus buying in the sense of, I'm sure you've been on both sides, right? Like you're representing a seller, representing a buyer. Um, do you feel like they come in different situations where a seller might thinking about selling in the first place, and then they're like, actually, I can rent it out or Airbnb, or like I can stay here for a sec, meaning decision changes from buying and selling. You ever seen that happen often?
You mean it changes between them selling and then deciding to rent it out? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, sometimes. I mean, when I'm sitting down and talking with a potential home seller, or I should say a potential home seller or somebody that may list their home, that's always one of my questions. Hey, if it doesn't sell, what's your plan? And typically it is like, oh, we would just hang on to it and rent it out. So really, I only see that in scenarios where they just get no action on their property whatsoever. Not very
What
common.
would you do? Like, what would be your plan if you did everything and then listed out couple days, maybe even a week or two, nothing happens. How would you go from that point to like talking to the client of like, what should we do at this point?
That really depends on the seller's motivation because everybody's motivation is different, right? And I just ran into this with a couple of properties I had listed that I put on the market late summer, early fall. In fall into winter, it was quite slow here, and these properties were priced correctly. They were in good shape. There wasn't a lot on the market that we were even competing with. At one point, like we were the only one in this price range in this particular market, and it's just crickets. And we're like, I mean, there's nothing worse than having to update your home seller on a Monday for the previous week and said we've had no showings. I mean, that's just
Hmm.
like, oh God. And you have no, you're like, yeah, guys, the property looks great. It shows well online. I'm doing online advertisements. Look at all the views we're getting. Look at all the saves we're getting. It's out there. People, when we run into that, this is my typical conversation is there's 6 things that cause a home to sell. And I want to sit down, Mr. Seller, and let's go through them. And sometimes I have this conversation up front, but typically this happens if it's not selling. And so we sit down and go, okay, let's review the 6 things. Number one, location. Would you agree? There's nothing we can do about that, right? Your home is where it's at, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
And would you agree that we collectively priced accordingly to the location that it's in? Yes, we did. I agree too. I think we're priced right. Okay. Second one is condition. What's our condition like? Hey, we made it look presentable. Do you want to spend the money to upgrade the kitchen? Do you think that's worth it? I don't think it is. Do you think it is? Do you want to do anything to affect the condition of the property? And they let them answer. They have their choice on that, right? Third thing is market conditions. And we may review what's going on in their general market in a broad aspect. Just depends on the property, right? How many properties are on the market, how many you've sold last month. What are list to sales price ratios? Are there properties that are suddenly selling for a lot less and we want to, cut our price to catch up with them? Is that an option? What other factors are going on? Is there a giant war going on? What are mortgage rates like? Are the buyers being, standoffish for some reason that we don't know? Uncertainty in the market, et cetera, all these things. So those are all market conditions. We've got to evaluate those and make our decisions based off that, right? The fourth thing is seller incentives, and this is more geared towards new home builders. So you'll see new home builders, they don't ever like to bring their price down after one's sold, right? Because then it brings the comps down for everything. So they'll do things like, hey, we're going to pay your taxes, your HOA fees, or whatever. We're going to pay down your rate, whatever. So that's something that a traditional home seller can do if they want. Not as uncommon. Sometimes you see people like offering like a bonus commission to the buyer agent. It's up to the buyer, like what, but offering incentives for a resale home typically don't move the needle that much. The 2-1 buy down rate kind of got popular where a seller or a buyer might ask for the rate to be bought down. So it's more affordable on a monthly payment for a few years, right? So that's number 4. Number 5 would be marketing. And this is where I pause and say, hey, here's all the things I promised I would do for the property. Here's all the results. Here's all the money I've spent. Here's everything I've done to market your home. Is there anything that you feel like I'm missing? I want to put it on me now. I want to know, do you think I'm not doing something? And let them answer. Oh, well, no, you're doing a great job. And we think it's out there. Would you agree that it's exposed to everybody that's, possibly buying the home? Let them answer. Let them, be engaged in this part of the conversation. And so we got down to, we're at number 5. Guess what number 6 is? Price. So now we've looked at all these other things because, if the price isn't compelling, the home's not selling, right? So, but here's the thing. I was making an example of these particular properties that were sitting and where we felt that we were priced right. And with all these homeowners, I said, look, we can do, there's 2 things now that are going to determine when we sell. And one is, do we cut the price or we just have to give it time? And I'm fine with either one. If you guys want to stick to this price, and in both circumstances, and actually it was 3 or 4 circumstances, one guy kind of like moved the needle a little bit on price, right? And we were a little overpriced to begin with, honestly, but this one, couple in particular, they did not lower their price, and we ended up getting full price, but it just took us till January to get it.
How would you make that decision if you're the seller? Like, how is there things you looking at to be like, oh, I can't wait, or is it things to be like, I gotta lower it and lower by X amount to get rid of the property? Is there question that you would ask yourself to go through that decision?
100%. No, first, this is a numbers thing overall. So the biggest thing I would be looking at is, what is my monthly expense to hold that property? Because most of the time when you're selling these properties, they're vacant and they're just sitting, they're sitting there. So what's my monthly nut on that property? If I'm all of a sudden, if I'm spending $10,000 a month just for a simple number, and it's going month after month after month and nothing's happening, well, heck, it might make more sense for me to lob off $30,000 on the price. Right?
So
right?
When you say monthly expense, do you mean mortgage, or there's more to that than just mortgage?
No, what you call the PITI: principal, interest, taxes, insurance. That's
Gotcha.
your baseline, right? But then you've got stuff like your power bill, landscaping, water, which the water and electric, if they're not living there, it's not going to be very high, but it all adds up, right? If it's a condo, or if in a homeowners association, you might have HOA dues. So like one of the examples I gave you before, they had a pretty big monthly expense, and that's how they were evaluating what to do. They're like, well, you know what? It's only going to cost us, because they had pretty low monthly holding cost on the property. They looked at it like, hey, it's only costing us X amount. There's no reason to lob off the price right now. Let's just hang tight. And we
Ah.
did, and they ended up doing fine on it, you know? So it really depends. I mean, some owners are in a much more desperate situation and they got to sell it now. And at the end of the day, you can do all the marketing in the world. You can have the home looking just gorgeous. You could be the only home on the market in that zip code. And if you're overpriced, you're not selling. Plain and simple. And at the end of the day, a homeowner can think a home's worth a certain price. I can think it's worth a certain price. Does not matter. The only thing it matters to is what one buyer thinks it's worth, because that's all you need. You just need one buyer. And if no buyers are buying it, then chances are you're overpriced.
When you're pricing out, I'm sure that it's going to be a conversation with your seller, right? Hey, here's the condition, housing market, location, etc. Here's the price, and the conversation goes with the seller. How do you plan out? I've heard, anywhere from let's do very high and then do deduction per some days. I've heard, let's just do as low as possible, get rid of it. And I understand it's more of a situation based per seller. But what would be like your thought process? Do you think it's valid to like, let's just do super high and then cut down, or like reasonable, just let it be, or like a lower than market and just leave it as it is?
So I believe in options, period, for a client when I'm going to sit down with them. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to, give them, anywhere from a pretty precise number of what I think the market's going to bear, or I might give them a bit of a range, right? And I say, okay, Mr. Seller, I'm going to give you 3 pricing strategies. And honestly, I am open to any one of these. I'll give you my opinion, what I think is the best, but I'm going to offer all 3 of these and you get to decide which one you want to go with. So pricing strategy number 1 is we go higher than market value. Would you agree that the market value is X amount? And they agree. Yeah, we agree. Okay. So we could try to go higher than that just to see, but you know what that's going to do? It's going to reduce our buyer pool. We're going to be targeting less buyers are going to be interested if we're going for this crazy high price, right? That might be a good option for you if you're not, in a rush to sell it, etc. Remind me to talk about private exclusive too when I get done with this. But
Sure,
so that's
sure.
option 1. We go high. We go high on the price, right? Option 2 is the opposite. We act like it's a auction and we go 10% or more less, because what happens then is all these buyers think it's a smoking good deal, and then it ends up getting bid up. Because the bottom line is you can never really underprice a property, because the market's always going to determine what the value is. So if you underpriced it, it's going to come up to market value because there's going to be at least one buyer going after it and seeing the value in it, right? The third option is we go market value, in either at market value or just a hair, like a percent or two under that market value, to make a very attractive price. And I just say, which one of these 3 things works best for your particular situation? And 9 times out of 10, they go with the third one. They want to price it at
Oh,
market. Yeah.
okay. So they just want to price at market and see what the market says and however many offer, and then you just go from there.
Correct. Yeah. The times when I see somebody going really aggressive on going low is if it's like a really beat up rundown property that might just be selling for the land value. And so you price it really aggressively low and then just let the property get bid up. And it gets real competitive. And then I just don't run across too many people that want to just blatantly overprice their home. But what I was going to say about with Compass, we have what's called private exclusive listings, meaning it's only within brokerage. It does not get exposed to the general market. And this is a good opportunity if somebody is really dead set on thinking that they might get some crazy high price. What we can do is, because Compass has one of the biggest, if not the biggest, agent count within San Diego. So if it's on private exclusive, it gets sent out to all the agents within Compass. So it's getting exposed. It's almost like a litmus test, a small example of the overall market. So let's say you got a property and, we determine it's worth 2 million. I might say, hey, look, while we're getting the home ready for market, or just, giving it a week to 10 days or something. I just had one that it was going to be ready right at Christmas time, not the best time to launch a property. And we decided we were going to come on the open market mid-January. And I said, hey, guys, I have an idea. And the house was appraised at like 2.6 million.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought we should list it around 2.7. And I said, I got an idea. I go, why don't we put it on private exclusive? What's your like pie in the sky number? What number would you just be like, there's no way we're going to get this, but maybe we will. And they said 2.9 million. I said, all right, let's put it on private exclusive at 2.9 million. Guess what we got?
2.9
2.
exactly.
We got 2.9. We ended up doing a small price reduction because there was some issues with the home. But bottom line is it gives you a good test of what somebody might pay for the home.
Gotcha. Like when you say private exclusive, like is it within Compass only, or is
Yes,
it within? Okay.
only Compass.
Wow, that's super powerful.
Mm-hmm.
How in the sense of like if I'm a buyer with you guys, right? And so would I be then presented? I would guess those private exclusive deals beforehand.
100%. So
From my
if you're
understanding, it's just like prior to the public listing, you guys get the private exclusive where you can share it with within your own community, and obviously the clients that you guys serve to be able to like take a look and start there, if that makes sense.
so that's a benefit with working with me or I mean an agent from Compass in general is I mean just within San Diego County right now there's around 120 130 private listings available, additional homes that are not open to the general public. And not everybody does what I do with testing it on the price. Some people are legitimately on there at a reasonable price. On a given year, our team will have like 3 to 5 buyers that get private exclusive properties that they wouldn't have known about otherwise. Sometimes you do get home sellers that don't want to go on the open market. They don't want to be publicly marketed. And so they just want to, we used to be able to have what's called pocket listings. So you could call me up and go, hey, Greg, I want to sell my home, but I don't want to put it on the market if you find a buyer. And so we could go to like our broker meetings and with all agents from all different brokerages and go, hey, if anybody has a buyer, I got something, just come talk to me, whatever. And you could do these deals off market. And we're not allowed to do that anymore, but you can have them within the brokerage.
Gotcha. That's amazing. That way you get like the first, the first catch on all the offers that you guys can get, and you can also test the price out or see how the offer goes and see what the potential buyer will say before you even like put it into the public market in the first place.
Yeah, and I'm only honestly like at the end of the day, unless a seller really has a reason to stay private, like I fully believe they should be on the open market. There's no question, because that's the only way you're really going to know that you got the highest and best price. That's it, right?
Gotcha.
So I'm only big on utilizing that tool if we're just testing the price. If that's our main goal is just testing. But at the end of the day, I got to do what the seller wants to do. If they say, hey, Greg, no, we want to only sell as private, then yeah, okay, we'll list as private.
If somebody that just trying to start out, they're like, Greg, you're amazing. I want to do what you do. I want to be a realtor, a broker, just like you. What would be your advice for them?
At the end of the day, like, I mean, this is what I've always been taught. And, I think people overcomplicate things, and they might get into this business thinking they try to go do 10 million different things. And really what they should be focusing on is just conversations and talking to people about real estate. So the more people that you talk about and have conversation with about real estate, the more business you're inevitably going to end up getting. It's not that difficult. So I think anybody coming into it, be prepared that you need to talk to a lot of people about real estate in order to get business. Bottom line is there's 3 ways to get business in real estate. And you can either sit and wait for it and just hope that something pops in your lap, right? You can buy it by buying online leads or, doing farming marketing to a geographic area. You can spend all sorts of money till you're blue in the face trying to buy business. And then the third way is you actually go out and find it. And by that, I mean, you do anything possible to get in front of as many people as possible, or even on the phone. I can tell you, I have done it all. I have been a door knocker before. I door knocked like crazy in an area. I did the farming to a geographical area. I've cold called like you wouldn't believe. I've called expireds for sale by owners, circle dialing. The best thing that you can always start with is the people that already know you and have done business with you. As a new agent, it takes a little time to get that built up, right? So, but once you start going on it, I mean, the other way that I built a business before the downturn was open houses because they were free. And that's I mean, you already have buyers coming to meet you. The thing that a lot of agents do that I see when I go in their open houses is they sit here like this at their computer. Oh, hey, oh yeah, come on in. Tell me let me know if you have any questions. That's it. And so you want to engage with these people. And yeah, there are certain people that are better face to face with people. And I'm one of them. Like I can build rapport pretty easily with people. So open houses were great for me. If somebody came in and they weren't working with an agent and they were a serious buyer, the chances are I was going to end up getting them as a client. So, I mean, that's kind of in a nutshell, but the bottom line is that you just got to talk to more people, and that's how you end up building a business. You can't you can't be a secret agent, as I call them.
That's a good way to put it.
And people get, especially in this day and age where you've got all these, real estate TV shows making it look all glitz and glamour, and like they don't, or social media where there's these agents doing all sorts of videos and all this stuff. And it's interesting to me because sometimes you see these agents that have this persona on social media, like they are doing all this business. And then you look them up and they're like, they sold 2 homes in the last year, but they just make it look like it. But the bottom line is like, most people have a very difficult time with rejection, and you get if you're going to be a good salesperson, you're going to get rejected a lot. You know how many times I've been hung up on and told to fuck off and don't call me again and lose my number and get off my doorstep, and you just can't take it personal. And you've just got to talk to a lot of people. And one of my sayings with myself and with my team, because we collectively I don't do it nearly as much anymore. I've got enough business that just comes to me now after doing this so long. But we used to do a lot of telephone prospecting, and we would do it together, at the same time, like do these power hours together. And one of my biggest mottos that has stuck with my team and with myself is good things happen when I'm on the phone. So good things happen when I'm on the phone, right? And so what that means is like, I may sit there and call a bunch of people that hang up on me and don't want to talk to me. And it's like, man, this is a waste of time and you're glad, but inevitably some sort of business comes my way because I'm putting in the time and the effort. And that's how the universe works, in my opinion. You put the effort in, you show up, you got to be present to win. So you put in the effort, you show up, and you put all these efforts in place, and you're gonna have something happen. It just is.
Gotcha. So I know you wanted to share a quick video real quick. You mind just do that right there?
See if I can do this right this time. So here is an example of one of our little before and afters. And I think you'll have audio too. You ready?
Yes. Yep.
Do you want to get the most money possible when selling your home? Let me show you how we invested $10,000 to improve our client's home, which resulted in an additional $80,000 in profit. This home was in complete disarray, and with a limited budget, we had to strategically think about what improvements would give us the most bang for the buck. We opened up the wall of the kitchen, replaced all flooring and light fixtures, painted the interior, resurfaced countertops and bathtubs, and cleaned up the backyard to expose the amazing view. Once all improvements were made, our staging team got to work and added the finishing touches to help the property show in its best possible light. With our concierge program, we handled all details of this project, including paying upfront costs. Our seller did not have to lift a finger until it was time to deposit their check from the sale of the home. Would you like these results? Contact me today.
That's amazing. So I know you got a hard cut off pretty soon. Last but not least, how can people find you?
Call me direct, phone number 858-717-0730. I've got gregcummings.com, everysandiegohome.com. I'm on Instagram, the Greg Cummings. Any one of those. I'm pretty easy to find online. I'm all over the internet.
That's amazing. Thank you so much.